Earlier in this series, we discussed the 3 pillars. In this video, we're going to focus mostly on exploration and traveling. This is Master the Game. I am Juice. Let's get started. Make sure you head on over to rpgjuice.com, where you can get caught up on the latest videos, the latest news, and blog posts from Juice himself. One of the first things I want to discuss when it comes to traveling is the pace. Now, there are 3 paces. You got fast, medium, slow. This is on page 182 of the Player's Handbook. It's important to know when you're doing the slow pace, you can actually use stealth. Whereas if you're going normal or fast, you cannot use stealth. If your adventuring party has chosen to move fast, you will have a -5 on your passive perception. This can be huge. This can make it so you don't see simple threats, you don't see traps, you are easily bombarded or lured into traps. Now, while you are traveling, one of the things to remember is that if you are crossing difficult terrain, your speed is halved. Now, this applies to combat as well. So if you're in difficult terrain in combat, your speed is halved as well. So that should be pretty easy to remember. When you're swimming and climbing, this is going to halve your movement as well. So if you're halved from difficult terrain and from this, you're going to be moving at a slow pace. Now, the words don't actually say that your movement is halved. It actually says it's an extra foot of movement. So I guess if you're in difficult terrain and your speed is halved, and then you are swimming through, say, sludgy swamp water, I guess it's really, for every foot you move, it costs 3 feet of movement. So, yeah, I guess it's not really halved, but I, for the sake of my games, try to remember it as halved just because it's easier. And I rarely do both anyway. Now, while you're traveling, you're going to use your passive perception to see if you notice any threats. And if you do not, there is a good chance that the other group, such as the monsters or encountering party, will notice you first. Now, if they don't, then you both start combat at the same time, assuming you go into combat. If they do notice you, they could have a surprise round on you. This will be up to your DM, and I love surprise rounds. So keep that in mind. Surprise rounds kind of suck. Some things that a party can do while traveling is they can map, they can forage, try to find resources and things like that, and they can do tracking by using their wilderness checks. Whether you're tracking monsters, maybe you're tracking animals for food. There's a lot of different things there. And these are just the things that are covered in the Player's Handbook. I mean, ultimately, you can try to search for secret caves or hidden things. Ultimately, it's up to your DM and what they'll allow and what your imagination can come up with. You can become lost. This is something that I know a lot of groups use with, say, Tomb of Annihilation in the jungle. And it's pretty hilarious if your group gets lost. There are some abilities from different backgrounds and classes that make this either impossible or near impossible, though. So again, that's something to keep in mind. If that's something you don't want to worry about too much, maybe you should think about looking into some of these classes like the Ranger, or maybe some backgrounds. And something to think about is, can your characters see in the dark? If not, they're probably not going to travel at nighttime. This would be a great time to take a rest. We all know elves don't need the normal rest like other characters, and so they can take a lesser rest. But you don't want to be traveling at night if your characters are practically blind. This is a huge disadvantage for them, and for some monsters, it can be a massive advantage, such as if they have blind sight, true sight, dark vision. All these things can really benefit the monsters. When it comes to eating, a character can go 3 plus Constitution modifier days without food whatsoever. That's a lot of days. So keep that in mind, because this if you're going to track rations, I think you definitely need to know this rule. And if you don't know it, make a note of it right now. Your character is going to need a gallon of water per day. Now, a DM might decide that you're in a desert. You need 3, 4, 5 gallons of water in a day because you are sweating profusely and you are underneath a scorching hot sun that is draining you of sweat, and you do not want to fall to the desert. Personally, I don't like games that do a lot of this resource management with rations and water, but you might be playing the game as a survivalist, and so this might be a very important aspect to your game. So make sure that you just make note of this if this is the type of game you want to play. If not, these 2 rules when it comes to the food and the water are easily hand-waved, and so if that's not something you want to focus on, it's okay. When traveling, you're going to have to think about things like encumbrance, and you're going to have to think about things like, well, are we going to carry all of this treasure out of this cave? Now, I think it's better if you do not always carry the 1,000 gold and all the armor and the weapons out of the cave. Try to be practical about what you are doing. Does it make sense that your character is going to take 7 lances from this cave? No, of course not. If they have a wagon outside of the cave, maybe they're going to take everything out and load it up on the wagon. That's pretty practical, I would say. Yeah. But if not, then don't try to take everything. Just try to take some of the valuable stuff. A lot of DMs in the past have hand-waved this. This has led to Monty Hall campaigns where everyone just has all this stuff, and I feel like it bogs the game down. Again, I'm not interested in huge, massive resource management games. Maybe you guys are, and that's okay. Now, if you are suffering with encumbrance, you're not going to travel as fast. You're going to be slower. You're probably going to use more food, more water, and you are also at a huge disadvantage to being spotted by enemies and other dangers. Bandits, other adventuring parties, monsters, all these things can easily take care of you if you are suffering with encumbrance. So, again, just try to be practical in what you take out of the caves or dungeons or castles or whatever. This was just some of the travel rules that were in the player's handbook, as well as some things that I would recommend, such as, again, maybe hand-waving rations and water, and not just allowing your party to take everything out of a dungeon. If you liked this, be sure to hammer the like button, smash that subscribe button, and leave a comment with maybe some of the ways that your party has been creative with travel, or how do they get all the treasure out of the cave or the dungeon. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear about it. If you love my opinions, I want to hear about those too. I am Juice. This is Master the Game. Game on.